Win big with new DRF All Access past performances. With one best-in-class product, you now get all three past performance formats. Go to DRF.com and use coupon code 1FREEPP for a free single card today.
Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux, taking a look at one of the feature races at Gulfstream Park on Saturday. This is the $200,000 Affirmed division of the Florida Sire Stakes. We're going 7/8 of a mile. $200,000 is the purse. Before we take a look at the field, which features a very talented 2-year-old, remember that you can get 10% off all DRF past performances. Access the QR code and shop now using the coupon code DRFTV10. Here's the field for the Affirmed. Again, we're going 7/8 and rated by merit is a perfect 2 for 2. He's won off the screen in both starts, and each of his Beyer speed figures just towers over everything else the rest of this field has ever earned.
Yeah, he's been dazzling in those 2 starts for trainer Michael Yates. He does a tremendous job there. And, just look at the way he's been able to win and how he's gotten these trips done. It's just been impressive. And I think the big thing, too, Dan, to consider when you look at this series, it's lucrative, right? A lot of money here for the Florida bred, the Florida sired horses in that sense. And when you look at the Florida breds, they're going to go 6 furlongs and they're going to go 7 furlongs. They're going to go 1 mile and 16th in that final series. And this is the first time that a lot of them are getting tested. Go down the page, only a handful of horses have gone 7 furlongs or 1 mile in here, 2 in the field. So maybe this is where we see a little bit of a distinguish between them, and we see horses kind of stamp themselves as better than others.
Well, let's see where the Timeform U.S. pace projector has rated by merit, and rated by merit likes to be close to the pace. He's going to be close to the pace, and we'll see if the number 3, Neokos, who ran second to him last time out, can once again make the lead on him. Last time out, Neokos withdrew inside of rated by merit and made the lead. I wonder if this time out, rated by merit's not going to fool around, even with the extra furlong hanging over his shoulder.
And there's been a little bit of a rider switch in here, and who knows how it kind of was established, but Miguel Vasquez is on the David Fox horse on the outside, and you see Drayden Van Dyke is going to climb aboard this horse who was aboard Lou last time out. So there's a little bit of shuffle here. Maybe we'll see different tactics. I still think the 3 is going to go. Depends, as you mentioned, maybe based on the draw. Rated by merit's a little bit more keen, having that inside draw. But I think it benefits both of them that the inside runner, the number 1, Zizka, he doesn't want the lead. He's not going to be there.
If the 2 and the 3 get involved in a speed duel, maybe the 4, Classic, of course, one of the horses that has already raced beyond 7 furlongs, can pick up the pieces. He has the fastest Timeform U.S. late pace rating. Let's start things off with Zizka, who was a winner 2 starts back, going 6.5 furlongs, but was just no match for rated by merit at almost 80-1 last time out. He's got to do a lot more.
Yeah, he's going to really need to step up. And I guess the concern is he has to face so many of those rivals again, plus 2 fresher faces to the mix. Simply tough to make a case for him. It took him a little bit to figure it out, and he was able to graduate at 6.5. So, maybe he can get the 7/8, but last time out in that blitz early, he was towards the back and he stayed back there.
Rated by merit, the number 2, obviously the horse to beat, blitzed him with pure speed in his career debut, and then might have learned a lesson or 2 in his second start. The Dr. Fager, rated by merit, sat off Neokos early, made a bid on the outside to get to the front, and once he strikes the front, he is on his way.
Yeah, and we're kind of looking at the horses that exit this race, right? We mentioned most of them in the field do, and he does everything right. He draws clear in here. He kicks on. You mentioned he probably learned something. He didn't necessarily have the lead. He had someone there joining him for company. And the way that he strides to the wire, I mean, based on that, I think he stays at a 1-turn distance. This should be in his wheelhouse. I think the bigger question to me would be a 2-turn distance. And if he's going to face that sort of level and that competition in a month or so, that's a different story. But at 7/8, you have to think what he's done so far, he should be able to do once again.
What was even more impressive about that race is that I think the 3, Neokos, is pretty good. He earned a respectable Beyer speed figure in his second lifetime start, winning against open maidens, and he just was no match for rated by merit last time out. I expect him to be forwardly placed. Safi is having a tremendous year. It's just hard to see him, after watching that performance, turn the tables on rated by merit unless something happens.
Yeah, I mean, that's the tough thing, right? Obviously, this horse raced so well to be second, a well-beaten second, though. But I think it bodes well for him. You mentioned the open maiden score. When he was able to win that, he got a nice figure, but the horse behind him, Macho Music, came back to graduate next time out in impressive fashion, over 9 lengths. And then the connection sent this one to Keeneland, and he was able to win again with a 77 Beyer. And obviously didn't face a huge group in terms of the quantity of horses in that race at Keeneland, but I think that flatters this runner a lot. I just think, again, what's the case? If Rated by Merit was able to beat him by so many lengths last time out, how does that sort of situation flip? So tough for me to go against Rated by Merit. So it's really tough for me to use this horse on top.
I generally like horses cutting back from routes to 7 furlong races. Classic, of course, fits the bill after tiring going the one-turn mile in the Aventura, a race where maybe he moved just a little bit too early that day. He was third behind Rated by Merit in the Dr. Fager 2 starts back, but he's an experienced horse, and I think he might be at his best when you actually take him back in these sprints and make one run. Maybe he was too close to the favorite 2 starts back.
I would agree with that. I think he's maybe got a little fitness now. He's gone longer. He's going to cut back in distance. So from 6 to a mile to 7/8. And I think the other thing is the race 3 back in the Proud Man. I liked his performance. He got jostled around a little bit, maybe gained something from that after having a couple of months off. And he only missed by a neck. So I wonder if the same sort of thought process, if there is the speed duel and the speed decides not to stay, can a horse like Classic, of course, pick up the pieces late? The Proud Man suggests that he could.
Lou was beaten at odds of 2-1 or less in his first 5 starts, but he was a different animal. First time for trainer Carlos David over a muddy track. Let's watch the break. He's number 2. And Lou just walks out of the gate. He just doesn't show any kind of early interest. And if you're betting him again at a short price, you're thinking, oh no, it's going to happen again to Lou. But turning into the stretch, Lou figures it out. He picks up his head. He's got these 2 horses in front of him. He still has a lot of work to do. And I guess at the end of the day, Lou can do.
Yeah, he can. And maybe he's a fish. Maybe he really liked the off track, looking at both of his performances over the slop or the mud. He's been quite game, but it was a good performance. The figure, not necessarily that different from what we had seen in the past from him. He had been very comparable to that prior, but I think it's the way that he did it. Visually, you have to be impressed when a horse loses that much ground at the break and then is able to rally. And even when we picked it up and we showed that replay from the kind of the top of the stretch down, he's pretty far back. He had a lot of work to do on an off track, which sometimes can be really tough. So looking at the forecast, I don't think he's going to get an off track. You never know, though. It's South Florida. It can rain at any time. And I am sure that'd be kind of best case scenario for a horse like him. But he was able to finally get it done. And obviously has a ton of fitness under him with those 6 starts, very experienced. Going to get Paco Lopez in the irons, which is interesting. What's the tactics going to be? We always say Paco, gate rider, can get him out of the gate, but there's obviously horses that I think are just considerably faster than him on paper.
And after his last race, it might all be up, not even be up to Paco whether Lou gets out of the gate and is close or not. Big Paradise, I think, is a sneaky contender, breaking from the outside. He was a very professional debut winner, albeit against Florida breds. A 66 buyer is nothing to sneeze at for a 2-year-old in September. And he showed the ability to pass horses, which is something that often has to be taught to these 2-year-olds. Many of them are speed crazy. He just happens to be catching the best 2-year-old in Florida on Saturday.
Yeah, they're going to take a shot with him. And you kind of look at his performance on debut. He took some love in there, and I think he did everything right. He gained some knowledge out of this. And you mentioned passing horses can be tough. And when you think of 2-year-olds at Gulfstream from the get-go, especially when they start with those, sprints, like 4.5 or 5, like just go, get in the lead and stay in front. That's the strategy. And I like that that wasn't the case. I like that he got up in the final jumps to the wire. I think he's a horse that probably wants to go longer. And maybe if he participates, we'll see him take a step forward at 7/8 and maybe around 2 turns as well. I just thought, for a debut, he did everything right. And as you said, though, what works against him is he has to face Rated by Merit.
Top pick time. This race kicks off an early 50-cent pick 5. And I got to be honest with you, a lot of people are going to be singling Rated by Merit.
Yeah, and you understand why, right? I mean, just based on how he's won his races, I preferred him second time out. And sure, his figure didn't improve by a lot, but did it have to? 92 to 93, no one's even close to him. I like that he was able to rate off a horse that he's going to have to face again. And when called upon, he looked very good going to the wire. He was called, Jesus Rios did have to ask him to move forward, but those final 4 or 5 jumps to the wire, he was eased up and he still won by 6 1/4.
We're both going with the old 2-3 in the Affirmed, the feature race. Well, one of the feature races on a really nice card at Gulfstream on Saturday. Best of luck.
Hey friends, you look like you're in need of a winner. If you enjoyed the great content right here, just click and subscribe right here and enjoy the great DRF.com race of the days, the phenomenal stakes previews, and so much more. Many of that content featuring me and my exceptional selections. Trust me, you won't regret it.